last story of the night is just a little kind of an informational thing, and actually, this is actually giving us two pieces of information I was not aware of, and we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons real quick. Now, before you leave, I don't know much about Dungeons and Dragons. I was never into it. It wasn't my thing. Nothing against it, but it just wasn't my thing, which is weird because I knew a lot of people that were into it. I mean, he's like Lord of the Rings. I love fantasy, so it's weird that I never got into it. I don't know. But they're apparently making another movie. Now, I reported, oh man, I think it was my first podcast I did about how they were working on a TV show, and it was coming to us from the creator of John Wick, I believe it was, which they reference here in this article. But this article is actually about the movie, the forthcoming movie that they're working on as well. Whether they are connected or not, I have no idea. But let's jump right into this article real quick, and we'll discuss, because there's a few little details they throw in here to let us know how it's going down so far. The Dungeons and Dragons movie cast has added some more familiar names. Chris Pine is already leading a cast that includes Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, and Reggie Jean Page. I'm sorry. And now It breakout Sophia Lillis and Hugh Grant are both on board as well. While we don't know who the majority of these actors are playing, it's been revealed that Hugh Grant will play the film's villain. I think that's really cool. Hugh Grant, I think, could do a really good, depending on how they depict it, I think he could be a really good fantasy-esque villain. So I could see that. I can see that. I could absolutely see that. But we'll see. Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, who co-wrote Spider-Man Homecoming and directed the surprisingly great comedy Game Night, will write and direct the film for Paramount and E1. The film adaptation is described as a subversive approach to the game. Whatever the fuck that means. In addition to the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, E1 is also developing a Dungeons & Dragons TV show, with John Wick franchise director Derek Kolstad handling the script. On top of that, E1 is said to be working with and looking for multiple writers to develop various projects set in the fantasy universe. Oh, man. Well, the movie side of things, once again, I don't know a ton about Dungeons & Dragons. I know it's fantasy-based, dragons, dungeons, swords, that kind of thing. And I'm always down for that. So whether this will be good or not, I like Chris Pine. Michelle Rodriguez, I like her, but she is very hit or miss with her roles, and everybody else is just kind of... I mean, Hugh Grant's on board, and say what you will about the guy, he typically joins in on at least quality projects to varying degrees, so we'll find out. I could totally see him as a villain, as I mentioned a moment ago, so that I think that they could have some real fun with that, and I hope that they do. As far as like the writer and director of this, says that they wrote Spider-Man Homecoming. I think Spider-Man Homecoming was a good time. I enjoyed that movie. I've only seen part of Game Night, and I remember it being pretty good. It's the one with Steve Carell and Tina Fey. Is it Tina Fey? I don't know. But I remember it seeming pretty funny. I think there's a cameo with Mark Wahlberg in it that was probably pretty funny, or from what I remember, was pretty funny. Maybe I'm thinking about a different movie. I don't know. But apparently it was a surprisingly great comedy, according to this article. So there's that. And they're writing and directing. So the movie seems like it has everything going for it at the moment. And I think that it could be a good time. Clearly, this series has been around for a long time. So there's a lot of lore for them to fall back on. And hopefully they just do respect to the source material. I won't know if they are or not because I'm not familiar enough with Dungeons and Dragons to say either way. But hopefully those that are familiar with it, those that love some Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop gaming will, feel as if they are treating their beloved property well. I don't understand what a subversive approach to the game is when they're describing the film adaptation. It sounds like PR speech to me because it's not really saying anything at all. So we'll see there. Not a lot of details, but granted, I think that they are still. I think the writing part's done because they're casting actual people, but it's in pre-production still. So we're probably at least a good year and a half away from this thing, unless they fast track it or something. So we'll find out in about a year and a half or so, or whenever the fuck it's coming out, and until we get some more information on it. Now, this bottom part here that I read about. They're looking for more people to develop various projects set in the fantasy universe. I think a lot of that is probably contingent on this movie or the show, whichever comes first. I think that they're getting things ready, so if one of these is a runaway hit, or if it's a big hit, that they can just push all this other stuff into production, which kind of scares me because I feel like they're running the risk of possibly oversaturating the market. Too much of a good thing can turn bad real quick. And they would definitely be able to do that. I mean, they got tons of, like I said, tons of lore to fall back on, lots of stories to tell that have already been told within that lore. And my understanding is that lore of, the lore of Dungeons and Dragons is very deep. So there's tons of stuff to pull from there, and I just hope that they don't have a good thing starting out and then just run it into the ground. Which, I mean, nobody in Hollywood would ever do that, right? But Dungeons & Dragons, not just the TV show now. Big movie coming with big actors and big directors coming soon.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the JarCast Movie Podcast. If you like this and want more, then check out the JarCast live stream every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time on the Jacob Anders Review YouTube channel, where you can also find movie reviews every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You can also listen to the entire podcast on all major podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, and iTunes. So if you prefer audio, whichever one is your preferred, check it out there. Once again, I really appreciate it, and thanks for watching. And as always, stay sexy, YouTube.